That you're in. Let's take, who wants to volunteer to go first? Who wants to volunteer to go first?
Group 1 volunteers, group 2.
I like that. I like that. Okay. Let's get group 1 first. Let's get group 1 first. Before you make your presentation.
That's one, too.
That's one.
One. This is one.
No.
No, you always said the case study 1.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes, case study 1.
I thought you meant-
Case study 1. Case study 1. They're trying to get rid of me. Trying to make me feel like I getting old. Anyway, I close to 60, so y'all can get away with that. Are there any questions y'all want to ask of us before y'all do your presentation?
You supposed to read their own too?
No?
Right.
No? Was it a very easy case?
I wasn't fond of one.
It wasn't an easy case, or it was an easy case?
I mean, three was more straightforward.
No, we talking about 1 right now.
Oh, okay.
Stick with 1 with me. Stay with me. Stay with me. Case number 1. Was that an easy case or a difficult case?
It was in that
Easy, just that we need more time to wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if y'all were given 30 minutes, y'all gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
All right. Here are the facts of the case. Present the facts.
Okay.
Case number 1. We all gotta focus on case number 1 now. They are presenting the facts. What are the facts?
First fact is, of course, Trevor is the training manager. Bill is a self-employed consultant who he works with. We also know that Bill always like to send him little treats and stuff just so that he could always hire him like to give him a job.
Is that a fact?
Yeah, in the book.
The fact is, the fact is, Bill always sent Trevor a greeting card and a bottle of wine just before Christmas. It does not say anything about so he could get a job. That's what you just said.
Oh,
You see, stay with the facts. See, emotions already kicking there. He used to give him these things so he could keep getting
Okay,
the
so-
job. That isn't the fact.
Bill always sends Trevor treats.
Wonderful. Okay. Next fact.
You supposed to list all?
Tell me the facts you found. Tell me the facts you found.
That's all we have.
Okay. Group number, just group 1 to right. Are there any more facts in that case that they missed?
They didn't read it.
Let's read it. Let's read it. Trevor's the training manager of XYZ Bank PLC. He designs and implements training programs using both internal trainers and outside trainers. Trevor has occasionally engaged the service of Bill, a self-employed training consultant for various programs. And Bill always sends Trevor a greeting card and a bottle of wine just before Christmas each year. In November, Trevor informs Bill that there will be a major training initiative in the following year. This will involve delivering 25 courses, each of 3 days duration, for customer-facing staff. Bill will be invited to submit a quotation for providing the business. It is the policy of the bank to invite 3 tenders for all outsourced training projects. The proposal must be submitted by the end of January with a view to selecting the provider in the same month and commencement of the program in March. In December, Trevor receives the customary Christmas card and 3 iPod Nanos for each of his 3 children with Bill's best wishes. The card has a message handwritten by Bill with many thanks for your support. Has Bill acted ethically, and should Trevor accept the gifts?
No.
So there were a lot more facts that was not presented to us, yeah? For instance, it was a fact that these gifts came just before Christmas each year.
Yeah.
It was a fact that Trevor informed Bill that there was a major training initiative coming up.
Okay, pause question.
Okay.
Moving forward, we write down all the facts.
The first thing about analyzing any case is to, listen, is to acknowledge what are the facts. If you only take 2 facts and come to a conclusion, there could be some other things in there that makes that null and void. So anytime you get a case, and this is the teaching moment, so it's not you did wrong or you did right. It is we all learning in this environment. You have to analyze all the facts. And then in analyzing all the facts, you get to X, Y, Z. So in the past, Bill sometimes used, Trevor sometimes used Bill. Bill would ordinarily give him a bottle of wine and a card. This time, Trevor tells Bill that there's a major initiative. So that's a different conversation. This ain't just sometimes I will use you. We got something coming up. And that's delivering 25 courses. That's a big lot of money that he's going to earn. That's a fact. The policy of the bank is to invite 3 tenders. That's a fact for all outsourced training. And the proposal must be submitted by the end of January. Sorry?
But, okay, that's like how he always is using Bill, right?
He didn't say it was always using Bill.
Okay.
What it says,
It appears to be that they
Trevor occasionally. That's a fact.
Yeah, so, you know, like in some companies you build business relationships with people
Yeah.
and because,
He's not wrong with that.
but like, I don't think like all the time it's necessary to do tenders if you already have someone that you occasionally use.
Agreed, but the fact is, this will involve a major contract because it's 25 cases. And it's saying it is the bank's policy to invite 3 tenders for all outsourced training projects. Whether or not they did it in the past or they can do it in the future, the fact is, it's the bank's policy that they will do for 3 tenders.
That's funny.
That's a fact.
That's tricky.
I know. I like the fact that it's tricky because dilemmas will be tricky.
Because people use the same vendors over and over, you know.
But if it is a policy that it should go out to tender, and you don't put it out to tender, and you just keep using the same person all the time, it might raise a red flag. Now, having raised the red flag, you could say, oh, we found him to be very good, he already know our people, and so on and so forth, and so far. But what this course is intended to do is that you feel a red flag. Now, once you investigate the flag, it should be okay. So the fact was that they normally go to tender, and in December, so we still in the same month, because Bill is doing what he would ordinarily do, send a little something around Christmas time. So that's nothing new. But instead of the traditional wine, maybe a bottle of wine, and a card, which only costs X, imagine getting 2 of those Nintendo Nano games for your 3 children. That's a different level of gift. Okay? And 1 for each child. Now, 1 of them could share, or, 3 of them could share 1. But it was definitely intended that Bill would do something else. Those are the facts. And the card had a handwritten note with many thanks for your support. Those are the facts. That's the fact. So in any case, yes, I want to see the facts as presented to you. Now, having presented the facts, what are your thoughts on what theories, if any, was in breach? What did you guys say? So there ain't no one person saying. What did you all conclude? What did you guys conclude? Or y'all haven't came to a conclusion? They need more time. Okay. Can we help them out a little bit?
Yes, so
Having heard the facts, the question asks, has Bill acted ethically?
No.
No. They say no. The question is, has Bill acted ethically? They say no. And should Trevor accept the gifts?
We have on that.
But tell me that. Don't, I was
We just
asking.
didn't elaborate on it because that one was a rush.
No, but what I'm saying is I asked, what if you guys
Oh, okay.
decided? And I didn't get anything, so you said, in the interest of time, you want to get it in before.
No, he didn't
3
act
o'clock.
on that.
Yeah, okay. He didn't act it ethically, and Bill should not accept, Trevor should not accept the gift. That's what we all agree? Okay, fair enough. You see why it's difficult though? Because if we jump into our own heads, what could have happened, whatever, and this was quite normal and then we could kind of get away from it, and we will discuss that some more. Item number 2. Case 2. Let's hear the facts.
The facts are Jane works for the government department. Jane overheard an interview with the minister.
Mm-hmm.
Jane was copying some information that was contrary to what the minister was saying. Jane then distributed 5 of the copies to the news outlets, and doing that, she was in breach of Section 4 of the Official Secrecy Act, and she's been thrown in prison for it.
Okay. Assuming that the information released by Jane was in the public interest, did Jane act ethically?
To her, she thought it was right to give them the information. But if she had an agreement that we had for confidentiality, then it was wrong. Who authorized her, right?
To release such information.
So she did not.
And if she didn't.
Okay. You guys agree with that?
We,
Here are the facts. Jane works for a government department. One day she was copying some documents, and I heard discussion about whether or not you should be reading the documents that you copy it. We have these nice, wonderful copies. You just put it there and you press. You know, you don't have to be reading everything. All right. The office radio is the one broadcasting the news. The minister responsible for the department is being interviewed, and then she is astonished. So she doesn't get into the emotional realm. She doesn't get vexed. Her emotion kicked in. They hear that the minister is giving information to the interviewer that is completely at odds with the information that is in the document that she is copying. Jane takes 5 additional copies, so she wasn't supposed to get that many. She took 5 more, and distribute them to 5 national newspapers. Now, you know what the old people say, once you put it in the public domain, you can't get it back. Okay? And so she was prosecuted under Section 4 of the Official Secrets Act. So there's an act, a legal document that says she shouldn't be doing this. And for that she was sentenced to 4 months in prison. If that act was not in place, she could not have been sentenced to prison. So the fact that she was sentenced to prison, some judge said she did something wrong.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Okay. Assuming that the information released by Jane was in the public interest, we are assuming that, we don't know that to be a fact. Did Jane act ethically? And the answer of that, of course, is no. Okay. Now that you understand how we go about doing this thing, group 1, let's look at case number 3. And even if you haven't written it down, let's analyze what are the facts in case number 3. What do you have so far?
Marie is the business development management for the bank.
Mm-hmm.
The bank is asking for 2 competitors to provide a proposal for delivering the bank services for the next 3 years.
Jerry's the finance director of the corporate client.
Mm-hmm. Any more facts?
Jerry wanted this. He wanted this charity.
Jerry's deeply committed to the charity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Maria has authority to sanction donations.
Okay, those are the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
You know any boss?
Okay, let's go through it. Maria is the business development manager. That's a fact. Our long-standing corporate client has been informed that for the first time in many years, he will be asking 2 competitors of ABC to provide a proposal for delivery of banking service for the next 3 years. So the fact is that they're going to ask for these proposals. That's a fact. And its competitors will be asked to provide a formal presentation to the client. A week before the presentation is to take place, Maria receives a telephone call from Jerry. That's a fact. Jerry, the financial director of the corporate client. Jerry informs Maria that he would like ABC PLC to succeed in his bid for the business. So Jerry is directing Maria. That's a fact. And as a result of him directing Maria, he is prepared to let Maria have copies of the presentation by 2 competitors if Maria is willing to ensure that Jerry's favorite charity will receive a donation of £5,000. This will enable ABC Bank to produce a more effective presentation. Jerry is deeply committed to the charity as it has helped his daughter to recover from a serious illness by providing funding for special treatment. Jerry argues that nobody will lose from this suggestion, as a good cause will benefit, and both the client and service provider will also benefit from the continuation of their business relationship. So Jerry is saying, I care about this group, and if you do this to me, well, no harm, no foul, because a lot of people will benefit, and we all would be doing well, and then we could continue our relationship. Jerry knows that Maria has the authority to sanction such a donation, but needs to know her answer by the close of the business day on the following day. Should Maria agree to Jerry's proposal?
No.
No. You all say no. What's the issue? Bribery is one. Conflict of interest to another. Okay. See, we're getting better as we go along. Last one. Case number 4. JKL Building Society. What are the facts?
The facts are that JKL Building Society is gonna be processing a commercial mortgage for Shop Limited. Another fact is that Smith, Jones and Brown Solicitors is a firm that has been engaged by both the directors of Shop Limited and the JKL Building Society.
Mm-hmm.
Another fact is that the business failed and the society was faced with a substantial mortgage loss. Another fact is that they had a old mortgage arrears of $6,000, and that this information was not disclosed to JKL Building Society before the mortgage was settled.
Okay. That's all the facts.
Yeah.
Anyone see any more facts? So was it the duty of the lawyers to disclose this information? The $6,000?
No.
Okay, let's go back.
It's like a double-edged sword in a way.
The same solicitors will set up the mortgage for JKL. So this law firm is representing both parties to a contract. Is that?
It's conflict of interest.
There you go. That's one issue.
But then confidentiality on the client behalf.
But if I'm okay, if A is over here, and that's why it shouldn't happen. But if A is over here, and I'm getting all this information to be confidential, and B has hired me to make sure that the information I get is in their best interest, where is the confidentiality?
Well, who I signed it first?
I don't say who.
Well, that's true.
That's the fact. But you see what I'm saying? You see the kinds of questions that come up in one's mind.
Yeah.
Who are you representing at the point? If you're representing the person who was lending the money, You're supposed to tell them everything related to that client that might impact their decision on whether they should lend him money or not. Okay?
So we're looking at more for shop limited than JKL.
It appears that way because they didn't disclose that information. And now the building society is saying that they had a duty to disclose this information and wanted to sue them for professional negligence. Because what they're saying is, had we known that information, if they default on 6,000, why would we lend them any more money? Okay, so that was really a material fact under those circumstances. Okay, the question now, should Smith, Jones, and Brown have disclosed their real situation to JKL Building Society before the mortgage was settled? What did you guys conclude? Y'all was divided? Y'all was split? Y'all never
It
unanimous?
was very complicated.
What made it complicated?
Because there's representing both.
They represent
Yeah,
both parties.
Okay.
So they-
But somebody didn't get appropriately represented. Because you could have been representing both by disclosing all the information to the other
But
one.
I'm not entitled to tell you what I do and would do. If I have two separate clients, I'm not entitled to tell you what I do.
But you're representing one of those clients. And you're representing the other client. In representing the building society, you're saying, or any information I get, I will make sure you have.
You're assuming that is what's happening, right? That
No,
any
no, but
information.
if you hire a lawyer to do something for you, you expect the lawyer to not tell you something that might affect your decision on whether or not you should go into a
We
business?
would
But
expect that.
like
because
it's other client as well.
But you don't know that. Okay, what if they said, well, we understand there's a $6,000 outstanding on this loan out here, but that's just a small amount, and so on and so forth, so it should make a difference.
They could
The
have
Smith,
said
Jones, and
something.
Brown might just been acting on them getting business, because if they did disclose that information to
We don't know
JKL,
that.
they wouldn't have gotten the mortgage.
We don't know that. If I lend somebody $200,000 and they're in default by 6, I could quite say on their own merit, they might be prepared. I mean, they might qualify for 200,000. I could pay off the 6, and then now I'm lending 2006, because with information I can make a proper decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they should have disclosed the information then.
In that
In
aspect.
that case.
One of the things that this bill has, and it has proved, and it will prove, is it can go either way. It depends. Whether it's ethical or unethical, just how we had all that discussion is what normally happens in an organization when something happens. Persons think about what could have, might have, what were the real issues that were underlying, what if this had gone another way, because there's always things that are going to affect whether or not it's ethical or not ethical. If you go back now to page 8 in your books, you have just proven this chapter correct in that, on page 8, ethics considers what is right and wrong and whether a conduct by individuals and organization is good or bad. Straight away, we see that there are elements of judgment in this. Because what might be bad to one person may not be bad to another person. And we see ethics is centered on human behavior, either for an individual or group, or people on behalf of organizations. You see? So it's always a judgment call when you're looking at ethics. And you have to look at all the facts as it relates to that. And historically, if you jump down on the bottom of page 8, people are becoming more conscious nowadays of the impact of their actions, not only on themselves and the community, but also on society at large. And so there's more information out there about what is ethical. And with the advancement of technology, we have to also look at what is ethical to put on in the social media environment. Because some persons don't care about what is true. They go into the sensational, emotional thing of what has happened. And then I was happy that recently we had a situation where a young man was charged $10,000 for putting out this whatever they call him today, had a disagreement and they broke up, and he put out on social media that she was a prostitute for hire. and he was sued. And so you gotta be careful when you use those instruments. You gotta be very careful when you use those instruments to defame an individual or to cause something that could be detrimental to somebody else. Particularly in the environment, it is not true, and that's because that's one of the key stories of the crime for slander and defamation. And you have damaged someone's reputation without any facts, without the true facts. So you have to be very careful. And this is why ethics and professionalism is so important, because not only in a business environment, but in a social environment, it does have an implication. So when we go into the historical arrangement, you would find that there is laws on our books because people don't behave ethically if left alone. And so you might find that ethics is not only about compliance with the law, but what is morally correct. And where did we get our moral compass from? What do you think? Where do we get this concept of right and wrong? Conscience, that's one. Definitely. We have this mechanism in us that tells us that don't feel right. Or sometimes you hear, sometimes we say, my spirit just don't take. That's all to say something that happens goes against our consciences. So we were created with consciences. And so that came from the Creator. Immediately, if you believe in the Bible and the setup of the Mosaic Law, long before the Mosaic Law, Cain knew he did something wrong when he killed Abel. He knew right away he did something wrong. So it started from way back then. Ethics and what is ethical, and what is right and what is wrong. The minute Adam and Eve ate the apple, they suddenly realized they were naked. They was naked all before. So right and wrong started from then. But we keep justifying why our behavior is right in this case and might be wrong in another. And so all of the stuff that's on page 10 and 11 gives you the different person's perception of what is right and what is wrong and what ethics is. And so let's just run through them very quickly. I'm on the top of page 11. We have Plato, we have Aristotle, we have the Enlightenment movement, we have Kant, and all of them had their different definition of what ethics is all about. Let's look at Plato. Plato, he was very much, he followed Socrates' teaching. He founded the Academy of Athens for the teaching of philosophy and science, where Aristotle was a pupil. Plato demonstrated that to live well is to have a well-ordered soul in harmony with the world. So Plato dealt with it gotta be feeling right. It gotta feel right to everybody. And he deals with ethics in the forms of justice and demonstrate that justice is good for the state and the individual. He suggested that the human soul can be compared to a state, and that by maintaining this order, the soul can retain a just position as can the state. So he talked about balancing and being in proper balance. And key to his theory was life of balance, harmony, and reason. And so the virtues of temperance, justice, courage, and wisdom. So if you have all of these basic core values, it would lead you to have a good life, and they should be all kept in balance. So that was his theory. His theory was really as it relates to the virtues of an individual. And one of the criticism of his theory was that not all of these things were clear definition of virtue. Because what is virtuous to me may not be virtuous to Santique, may not be virtuous to someone else. Because we all grew up in different environments, we all grew up in different times. And what my generation used to accept as norm, your generation would say, ain't no way in hell we could do that. And what your generation might accept as norm, we keep saying, oh, what's wrong with these young people? So someone's virtue could differ depending on who we are. And that was one of the criticism of his theory. The next person, Aristotle, he believed that people wanted to live a good life, that they would feel good by doing good things, and that they would know what was good just through being virtuous. And so they needed, he was talking about a society full of good people, and that they would strive if they do all the good things that people want to do, and those who were not good would not succeed. So he actually looked at being good and true to these basic core values would make you succeed, and someone not being good, they would not succeed. So as a result, they had these things they called Christian thinkers. And these early Christians adopted Aristotelianism, and is a system of thought that found that the two were compatible, in that the ethics of the ancient Greek philosophy falls in the category of virtue ethics. So Plato and Aristotle all talked about virtue, and it's concerned with developing and maintaining personal virtues as a route to good ethical behavior. Now, again, they said a main flaw is evidence above is that they had quite some difficulty defining it precisely what these virtues are and how we can come by them. So Kant and his team now are part of the Enlightenment group, and during the Enlightenment group, I'm on the bottom of page 11, philosophers look for universal truths that can be scientifically based or proven. And this was started by a man called Immanuel Kant. So if you wanted to, we would need to have the different philosophers' way of looking at ethics. So there's Plato, there's Aristotle, now there's Kant, and what they believed in. Sorry. So the Enlightenment movement developed a system of ethics which revolves around identifying what should be done and what should not be done. And the question asks, does your organization have a code of ethics that everyone in the organization can refer to? That's the question that I'm throwing out to you guys. Does your organization have a code of ethics?
Yeah.
That's written,
Yeah.
and everybody gets a copy,
Yeah. With the sign.
and you have to sign that in coming in? How often is it revisited?
I think most jobs only let you read that and sign that when you're hired.
Now, if I looking for a job and y'all tell me if I sign this thing, I get a job and I get paid on a monthly
I
basis,
sign it.
you sign it. But my thing is, the question really is, are you really internalizing this ethics that they have on this piece of paper? And if you've been there for 15 years, are you going to be revisiting it every so often? Do we get to look at it once a year again? Do we look at it again every quarter?
PSD, so you like pull it up on everywhere.
Yeah, but I mean,
I take pictures
So
of
you
everything
don't
that I
know.
sign to look back on it.
okay, that's for your personal perspective. But does the organization say, from a regulatory standpoint, we want to make sure all employees go through it again every year, every 2 years, every 5 years? Because when you done sign coming in and you put it down on the shelf, and you go with your regular days doing things, and you're a couple of years down the road, unless it doesn't have one of those you can and cannot do, you just go on your merry way. And that's why sometimes you find some people are so far out left field because they just know I'm applying it based on what you say I can and cannot do. But when faced with a dilemma that's in the gray area, it's no black or no white, they don't know what to do. They go with what is in their best interest. And you'll have things like person standing online and saying, I'm waiting to see that particular teller. And then you could go. And if I was the manager of that group, I would wonder, and I would make sure the next time I see that individual coming to the bank, I call you off and say, I need you to do something. And let me see how long they can stand on the line when you don't come back to be a teller. So managers got to be knowledgeable about what to look for. Okay? How many of your organization, we talked about tips. The tip of a bottle of wine and a card was okay. But what about when you start doing the nano games or whatever? Is there a limit to the amount of tips that you can get from your customers? No? Yes?
I think,
There's a cap.
There's a cap. in some banking environment, they say it only could be X, Y, Z. Or if you're thinking about giving a tip, you got to give it to the manager and then let them decide how it's, yeah. The equivalent of $10 or $20, something small amount. But if I just hit the what they call a shore win or one or whatever, and I come into a bank and I want to tip you $1,000, would the red flag go off?
Yeah.
It should.
Yeah.
It should, eh?
$1,000, yeah.
So my thing is, some companies say there's no tipping allowed, and we have some of those all-inclusive hotels that there's no tipping allowed at all. Okay,
Find a way to do it, though.
but they find a way to do it.
Standard.
How do they find a way to do it? What do they do?
You meet secretly,
Oh, they girl like that.
yeah,
They girl like that.
or, you know,
But I know they make them wear like a little pin saying, "Oh, there's no tip. My customer service is included." Oh.
Okay, they make you wear that pin.
So I don't work there even when I be nice or.
Okay.
That's an all-inclusive.
All-inclusive.
All-inclusive hotel. They be like,
Okay,
the customer service is inclusive.
okay, customer service is included, but the word gratuitous should be. I might take the position. You've done such a good job. I know they couldn't have trained you to do what you've done, and I feel I want to give you an extra $20, but the organization is saying I cannot. Then my individual rights is being infringed. Or on the other side of it, I bought this XYZ and you had a bad attitude, you didn't serve me well, and I got to pay 15% gratuity. I got a problem with that. Because the word gratuity should be gracious. Come from the word gracious, meaning I feel that it's within my way that how you treat me, I should give you an XYZ. So it should not be a mandatory 15% XYZ. It should be, if you feel so, I might be able to give you more than 15%. You see what I'm saying? But we've moved away from what is ethical and what is gratuity and what is gracious in that kind of environment. What if organizations have this rule, for as many loans as you can get, I'm going to pay you a commission on the loans. And I have somebody who come in and in a little gray area probably would not qualify for the loan. And in order for me to get the bonus that I know I am entitled to get, if I just go over this threshold, what my feelings would be whether or not this person passed this loan test or not. And if no one is really checking, you know what's going to happen, right? Tomboy and get that loan. Because I now want to earn the bonus that's associated with the loan.
Yeah.
We should not be putting our employees in that environment. That they will turn a blind eye or make something happen just because there's a benefit to them for having achieved XYZ. We are creating a problem, in essence. So, look at those different, I'm going to let you read through that. And this area of the word utilitarianism, that is, it's wrong in every case. There's no consideration. It is absolutely wrong. And that came about as this guy named John Stuart Mills on page 12. Mill's theory is that when making an ethical decision, a simple equation is required. What will cause the most happiness or good for the greatest number of people? So, if the damage is going to be good for the majority, he's okay. If something is good, it will cause happiness. A further point in this theory is that the displeasure caused to the minority might not be allowed to be too great, as this could lead to future social unrest. So he's saying if the majority of the people are going to benefit from it, then it should be a great thing. Cultural relativism is saying that nothing can be viewed as universally good or bad. What we view as good in the West is maybe very bad in context in another culture. We have some issues in the Eastern Bloc, for instance, where in some places around China and Asia and so forth, if a female or male is, because we don't know these days, is unfaithful, it can mean death. If that ever happened in the Bahamas, we'd be in trouble. Okay? We wouldn't have the graveyard big enough. You see what I'm saying? So it's saying that, why are you laughing though?
It really is.
Okay, but that's just to say then show you what we mean by cultural differences. And so you need to look at that and there. So both ethical systems work with their own culture. There are some things that women are accepted to do and men can't do, or men and vice versa. What is the culture of your country that kicks into what we talked about? Similarly, we talked about eating the grapes in the food store. That's a cultural norm now. Okay? Until somebody arrests, put a sign up, or someone say it's really stealing. And so those different theories is what I would like for you guys to read over, because what it brings out is that there are different approaches to ethics. Let me just go through the cases that we covered on page 23. Case 1. This is a classic case of soft commissions, which in the financial services industry is addressed to some extent by the Financial Services Authority. The training manager has accepted Christmas cards and bottles of wine, which are generally regarded as rewards for business received as opposed to bribes. However, the consultant has offered substantial gifts valued at over X instead of the usual token gifts valued of a few pounds in the past, so that kind of changed the ball. The virtues displayed by the consultant could be described by words such as gratitude or due appreciation. The training manager has accepted the gifts in good faith as a mutual recognition of benefits for each party in the past. By accepting the gifts of much higher value, the training manager could be accused of foregoing the virtues of integrity, as the gift now implies that even greater rewards could be forthcoming for further enhancement of the business relationship. You see, it's the value of the gifts that made it the difference. In case number 2, the second case mirrors the real-life case of Sarah Tinsdale, who was a young civil servant in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. In the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, divulged information to the Guardian newspaper concerning the arguments that would be used by the government to support the sighting of U.S. cruise missiles on UK soil. She argued that her duty as a public servant overrode her duty as an employee, or even to the law. Accountabilities under Section 4 of the Official Secrets Act had at the time rarely been tested, and the case provoked national debate. In this case, we can see that virtues such as honesty and integrity came to be challenged. And that's why we had difficulty with it. The case of which y'all did.
We did. Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why, notice now, in this particular case, the virtues such as honesty and integrity came to be challenged. And that's why we had a difficulty with it, because she was looking at the best interest of the public. And he was lying. The guy was lying. So she wanted to be honest. So she just acted because her virtues kicked in. And in a virtual approach to ethics, she would have been right. Because it's her virtues that were being challenged. Okay? But Tisdale would have argued that if government misled the public that elects it, then it fails in its duty of proprietary. In such cases, it is for others to act in a more honorable manner, even if it means breaking the law. In making an example of Tisdale, the government created a matter for the growing lobby that was challenging foreign policy and possibly exposed ministers to more criticism than would otherwise have been the case had the issue been ignored. So several things was causing it to be an issue, but the fact that she broke the law, she actually went to jail for that, it then became unethical. What we are proving, and this the whole crux of it, when you get deeper into the books and you are making a decision about whether it was ethical or not ethical, you need to base your decision on a particular approach. Because you could have well said, in a universal environment, a universal being, it is always wrong, this is unethical. But if she was only being judged on her virtues, she would have been ethical. So what I'm saying to you, with virtues and ethics and things like that, there's no black and white. It is the approach that is taken. And that's what we prove. You yourself had some difficulty with some of the cases because you and what you was discussing, which I heard, was the issues that you had difficulties with. And that's why I said in coming to conclusions about cases, don't get emotionally attached at that level. You go through the entire case, and then when you get here and making your decision, you could say based on a particular approach, because there are different approaches to ethics, and that's what I want to make sure you got. And this, when you go back to read chapter 1, you would find the different approaches to ethics. What was the other one? Case 3. Let me make sure I got the right case. Case 3 was in reference to the business development manager. Okay. This case appeared originally as a challenge for those entering the essay. Sorry? Oh. The case apparently couple minutes. The case originally appeared as a challenge for those entering the annual essay competition for this prize. Business development work is all about achieving targets. So in a live banking environment, the manager will be under pressure to maximize the prospects of attracting new business, but also retaining existing clients. And it's also less costly for the bank to retain and service existing business than to recruit new customers. Taking an approach, see this again? Taking an approach to this dilemma based on virtues. And that's how we want to always coach our questions. Taking a particular approach. Here is what we feel. That's why we say support the last 3 points, because there in some cases are no right and wrong. And when I mark your case studies, not what you're going to be presenting, but on the midterm and the final, I'll be looking for which approach you're taking as you answer this particular dilemma. So taking an approach to this dilemma based on virtues, there's a compelling argument for making the charitable donation in return for the presentation. Supporting good causes is considered by most to be virtuous. If the manager has the power to make the donation, if it is within the terms of reference of the position, and if the bank can afford it, why should the manager not make this donation and secure the new business in order to arrive at an all-win outcome? Mutual trust is also a virtue. So in order to benefit in the long term from this arrangement, the manager has to be certain that the client will fulfill his side of the bargain. And there's also the danger that the client may come back in 3 years' time and ask for a donation that is several times greater than that demanded at the moment. So once I get into the habit of bribing you, as the stakes get bigger and the charity need more money, I'm going to come back. And you don't want to open that door. The argument for making the donation and securing the business is fatally flawed when one considers other possible more relevant virtues. Surely it is a virtue to treat people in an even-handed manner and to have respect for others, including competitors. So if I'm going to go out to bidding, I should let everybody be on a level playing field and then just submit their bids, is what they're actually saying. Case number 4. This case reflects the fact of a famous legal case during the 1980s involving the Birmingham solicitors Giffen, Couch, and Archer. It is an excellent illustration of the interplay between legal and ethical principles. It was originally decided by the lower courts that the solicitors had failed in their duty of care to the building society, as they had withheld important information that had a direct bearing on the creditworthiness of the client. This was overturned by the higher courts, who held that the solicitor has no such duty of care and in fact had an ethical responsibility not to divulge the information to the building society. The final decision was based on the view that there were 2 separate business relationships. The solicitor was redeeming and therefore discharging the mortgage for the client with a previous lender, and setting up the new mortgage was a separate transaction with a separate set of responsibilities. Underpinning the problem, of course, is the conflict of interest that can arise when a solicitor represents both the lender and the borrower, which happens all the time. So again, it goes into the discussion in that if we take an approach entirely based on virtues, we have to examine that virtue should be demonstrated by the solicitor in respect of the 2 separate deals. The solicitor would be expected to act diligently, taking account of all necessary actions to complete the necessary processes. This involves giving advice to the client, but also exercising integrity in relation to holding and disclosing information. We have to ask, what virtues would you expect of a professional person in this situation? Significantly, the virtue-based approach to the dilemma teaches us much less in this case study than in the previous cases. It is difficult to arrive at a satisfactory conclusion without considering duties and consequences. There are, of course, and these are actual courses that are discussed in the deontological, is the word, how you pronounce that, like a deontological and teleological approaches that we will consider. And those two keys are very important. You had the virtuous, you had the universal, you had the, we talked about the cultural relativism, what is related to a particular culture. What is absolute, like death, thou shalt not kill. That's one of those that appear to be absolute. But we would find that in some certain circumstances, again, that's one that could go either way. So what I want you to do, pay particular attention when you go through chapter 27, because you're going to hear it, chapter 1, sorry, you're going to hear it coming up and up again many times. On page 27, the ontological approach, make sure you read that, because the term, the ontology, comes from deon, duty, that's how you remember that one. Page 27, so you're going to read that in preparation for our next week, make sure. And then what they're going to do is apply this approach to those 4 cases that we discussed already. And so you can read it. Page 27, straight on to page 30 is the ontological one. And then theological, it starts on 30 and it goes to, it goes all the way to page 34. Yeah.
We're supposed to stop reading, so we can read it from.
What I want you to get is the difference between the ontological and the teleological.
Okay.
Now, what they've done with the extra reading is that they apply these 2 approaches to the same 4 cases we had previously. So that's the extra reading. But once you get out of it, what is the difference between those 2 approaches, you would have done that. And so I would expect that you prepare for next week. Now go back and read all the bits in between. We did cover it just by going through those 4 cases, the different approaches. Finish read that, and then you prepare chapter 2 for next week.
Okay.
Any questions? But those are keywords. Remember we talked about the keywords? You cannot get through this course if you don't know the difference between the deontological and the teleological approaches to ethics. And we already demonstrated that not in all cases right is right and wrong is wrong. It depends. It depends. And it usually depends on the facts of the case. That's why being prepared to analyze all the facts, first and foremost, is always the best approach that we should take when we do anything at all. So, finish read chapter 1 and prepare chapter 2 for next week. Yes. Yes. Because we already covered 1 practically in this session here. But for you to get the other meat of what's there, you could just skim through and make sure you understand those things. And like I said, what I want you to get away with is the different approaches to ethics, and in particular the deontological and the teleological. And what this chapter has done is apply those different approaches to the same 4 cases we had before. And you could see why we had all the dilemma in the first case at the beginning. Because I heard stuff like, boy, it's difficult. It was only difficult because we were taking different approaches within ourselves. Our own basic core values and virtues was being played in to what we were reading, which is norm. Because what we're trying to do is get your ethical radar honed in that it should feel like something's wrong. Even before you get to what is the bank's policy or what is the company's code of ethics, you should know right from wrong and be always in tune with something else is here. And then you could dig a little deeper so you could find the theory, so you could base your decision. Because these steps is what you're supposed to be doing all day, every day, in your personal life and in your business environment. Because if you're ethical, you're ethical. If you're unethical, you're unethical. And we want to make sure you don't have no excuse. Well, I didn't know, or everybody in my department do that, or, I came into the minister do that, so. No, you got to stand on virtues, on core basic values yourself, so that governs how you behave going forward. Don't mind what nobody else do.
Sometimes some people get reprimanded for that, even though they know it's right, but then where the persons were doing it wrong, you get reprimanded.
Yes.
They want you to do it their way.
Their way. So we got to shine lights on some of those cases. And that's what we'll discuss in upcoming weeks. Okay. For those of you who do not know, the only day that I know in advance that we probably will not meet is the 23rd of February. It's because I really have to be somewhere else. But I will definitely assign enough reading material for you guys that we can cover it. And most of it we will enact in the class as well. So as you talk about it amongst each other, you will begin to learn more stuff as well. Okay?